I wanted to snap again. Hello, hello. Happy Friday to y'all. What's going on? Just making sure all the... There it is. All the pipes are flowing. All the streams are going. It's a Friday, not quite afternoon. And we're going to edit, chill out, hang out, whatever. Peter's here. Tim's here. You two are awesome. Good to see you. I got my kombucha, which is store-bought because I'm currently brewing a batch. Hey, Dean, how are you, bud? And I got some water, and I got photos from the live shoot that we did. I want to mention, I'll mention this later too, but I actually have my T-shirt. I'm not wearing. I forgot to change into my. What am I wearing? Nope, that's not it either. I got my T-shirts and my hoodies available for sale again, and you should. Can you guys? I got a question for you, which is, can you see the merch bar underneath the video with the T-shirts in it? Because when I go to my own page, I can't see it there. But Tim told me he can see it, so I'm wondering if anybody else can see it. Regardless of that, if you want to get a T-shirt or a hoodie and support the show, I'm going to pop that link into the chat. And then we're going to get to this deal. I can see merch bar here in Canada. Oh, hey, Edith. Hey, how's it going? You saw as well. Good, good, good. So what you guys been up to this week? I have to add, hey Mike, how are you? I have to add some slight different varieties. So I want to do a white text like my hoodie rather than just the orange text. So I'm going to update that. But this is like just to get it out there. Dean, okay, so Dean, you can't see the merch. Now, Dean, do you use an ad blocker? Because that might be part of why you can't see the merch. I'm going to adjust my camera here too. I'm buying a hoodie next month. Excellent. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, let's do this. While we chat, I will start. That one's actually not bad. Marking off these photos. So I haven't. Yes, those were dried mangoes that I was eating. Did you see that on the... I tried to start the stream, but I was still hooked up to the old stream. I was eating these dried Philippine mango pieces from Aldi. I love these. These things are like... They're my crack. So... Oh, you don't have to apologize, Dean. I was just wondering if you could see it or not. Mike, you're looking at the new... EM1X. Interesting. Very interesting that you're looking at that. I was checking that camera out now that it's been announced, and I certainly see the appeal of that camera. However, it's not a camera that would give me anything that I need, so it's not a camera that I'm particularly interested in. I kind of like this one. Although she's looking, there she's got eyes to camera. That's looking up too much. Ooh, that one I don't mind. Oh, I definitely like the globe better. So here's some interesting news. As you guys may or may not know, Kim and I were planning on going to Las Vegas, Nevada to see Van Morrison in concert this coming week. However, as you well know, our government is a total shit show, and I kind of like that shot. That's a maybe. I do like that one right there. And I'm going to have to go through and narrow these down. I really like this one, but we have that little patch of, so I'm going to reject that. Oh, God, I really like this one. I may just do a little work down there. This one isn't bad, but I didn't like these as much. Yeah, I use dry ice to get it to stay low. Would I be open to participating in the group challenges? Hey, Andrew, happy Friday. Yes, I would. I would absolutely be open to participating in the group challenges. With that being said, I would... Yes, let's just start with yes. In fact, why don't you message me and we can chat a little bit about this. I actually meant to message you to chat about it anyway after you made the post in the group. But tell me, if you want to share your ideas that you have here and now, go right ahead. I'm happy to chat about it. Code Flame, why do you say that? These we didn't. I was trying to use her leg as a leading line into the shot, but it didn't work out as well as we had hoped. So here we've got a little bit better coverage. There we go. Okay, these are all rejected. I didn't find the dry ice in town. It just looks really weird. That is a style, though. Well, we were going for this idea of an ice queen with this body paint. So, I mean, you know, certainly you don't have to like it, but thank you for sharing your thoughts on it. It is a style, and it's something I enjoy doing, the creative stuff. Andrew, I didn't get the dry ice. Angela got it. Or actually, Angela's husband, Dex, picked it up for us in Stevens Point. I know you can get it at AWG. It's something welding and gas. It's a welding supply store. I couldn't find a place to get it in Wisconsin Rapids. Let me wipe my nose there. Okay, so these, I'm rejecting these. I love Angela's pose here, but we didn't have the dry ice in place because we were testing for the pose and the lighting before we brought in the dry ice. So now here we've got it with the dry ice. And these are some shots that I'm quite happy with. I liked it better with her chin tilted down rather than tilting back like that. Like these right here. Although this direct to camera I like. So we're going to mark that. Oh, and here, oh, I know what happened here. This is one that I already did a little editing on in preparation for a video. So this one should already be marked as a pick. Yes, hello, Ultra MUC. How are you? I'm also going to go and get some of the... I'm also going to go and get some more dry ice because I want to make a video. So here we were trying to add atmosphere behind her. You can see Noelle spraying in the atmosphere aerosol, but we don't have good coverage yet. So I'm going to reject out these. Here we start to get better coverage. Look at that shot right there. Obviously, I've got some background cleanup. This one is much better. Plus, it's got easier cleanup for me to deal with, too. But her head on that one, that looks good. I quite like that, too, actually. Oh, I like that one, I think, a little bit better. That was an in-between. That one I like, though. That's obviously an in-between. That's an in-between. And that's a pretty, there we go, that one right there. So that's the last shot. 2 pots of hot water, yep, and the dry ice. I'm doing very well, Ultra MUC. Thank you very much. It's been a pretty good week. What I started to say is, earlier, no fog machine, Andrew. Yeah, Tim just laid it out. What we did was 2 pots of hot water and then adding the dry ice to it. And it worked out. Once we figured out to do that, it worked out really, really well. Hello, Subvids. How are you? Hello, Stavros from Messina, Greece. I have Greek heritage, but I have never been to Greece. Been looking into low-lying fog machines for a project. Honestly, Andrew, definitely look into using the dry ice. Now, here's one thing, though. Andrew, where, like, for this project, where do you anticipate you'll be shooting? Hold on just a second, guys. I forgot to close the curtain. Okay, so we've got some picks. Now let's do a little bit more refining on said picks. We're going to filter this out, and we're only going to show picks and unflagged images. So we went from 71 down to 23. Now we just got to break these out. Large venue. So you want to fill a very large area with a lot of the low-lying fog. Is that what you're thinking? And in this venue, is there going to be a lot of airflow? Is there going to be a lot of movement around the chute? Because that's one of the tricky things with the dry ice. It's pretty easy to, you know, basically blow it out. Now, I don't know if fog machines are any better, but in my experience, fog machines weren't great to work with. I haven't had a really wonderful experience with fog machines. So in looking, hold on a moment here. Let me switch this to large thumbnails so we can get a better look at some of these. In looking at some of these other shots that we have here, I don't think these two shots stand up quite as well. So I'm actually going to reject. I do like Angela's pose in this one though. So I think I'm going to hold on to that one. And then we've got these three here. So there's this one. And I think of those three, this one is a reject. I do like this one better than this one. I like the crystal ball there. So we'll hold on to that one. Can you try ice at Walmart? Are you serious? I had no idea. I'm going to have to check our local Walmart then, because that'll be way easier than having to go to... In fact, I'm going to... Let's see if my local Walmart has dry ice. Walmart.com. I do not like going to Walmart, quite frankly. However, I would go for that. We don't have a Costco anywhere near me. I don't even know if there's a Costco in Madison. I live in a smaller town in central Wisconsin, and the quote-unquote like biggest store around me is the Walmart Supercenter. So dry ice, and then let's see if I can filter by store. Let's see. Store availability. Here we go. Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. Sold and shipped, sold and shipped, sold and shipped. We didn't find dry ice with the store filter. So according to their website, at least, our local dry ice doesn't, our local Walmart doesn't sell dry ice. But I'll probably call them anyway to see, because their website, if anywhere, yeah, that's what I would think. If it's a super center, you would think they'd have it there, but maybe it doesn't come up on their website. Hey, Sandy, how are you? How is it going? Sorry, just changing this view here to my control screen. Okay, I like this pose, I think, but the more I'm looking at it now, this hand here, I'm not sure that works, so I'm going to reject that. I like that one. I love that shot. I just have to deal with that if I can. Okay, so here's what I want to do here. That shouldn't be there. I want to look at these as kind of a group. Part of what I love about these shots here is the way she's curving. Although the one arm, the support arm in the back, Safeway, huh? Interesting. Hey, Shane, how are you? Not to get off topic, but how do you have a full beard already? I know. That's my superpower. I can just grow a beard. It just like, it blows up on my face. So literally, I didn't do anything. And I've even shaved my neck a few times, but I'm letting this grow back in, and it just grows. It just grows. The EM1X I gotta say, it's an interesting camera. So I understand what Olympus is trying to do with that camera. They, I believe, are really trying to do two things. One, yeah, full beard in 3 days, pretty much. High five for beard growing powers, right, Sandy? I think EM1 is meant. I like the framing on this one slightly better. I also like that the fog is covering her foot. I think I like it better with her looking at the globe as well, rather than direct into camera. And I think, honestly, looking at these as compared to these first two shots, I am going to end up rejecting these because her arm, the way her arm is locked into her body and the way there's no separation there makes that look really awkward. So I'm going to reject that and narrow it down to these that we have. I still feel like these might be worthwhile, but I'm not sure yet. No, I'm going to reject those two. Yeah, so Olympus, I was not impressed with it. The same sensor as the EM1 II and 2.3 million pixels EVS, whereas they're using 3+ million. Here's what I think about the EM1X. I think I get what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to put micro four thirds cameras on the same level as full frame. They're essentially trying to move up market, which is what I was talking about last week when we were looking at it on Blab. But now having seen it, in fact, let's pull this up here for a second so I can take a look, EM1X, at it, and see what these specifications are. Because in my, here we go, specs. So it's got the same 20 megapixel sensor, great. It's got the dual TruePic quad-core processors. That'll speed up processing and help manage the buffer when you're shooting super fast. That's great. This fast focusing system is supposed to be super great, whatever. The image stabilization is supposed to be good up to 7.5 stops. Okay, that's pretty cool. Image stabilization is great, don't get me wrong. It's really great. But it's like, okay, 7.5, that's good. The viewfinder, whatever, the rear monitor, whatever. Everybody's talking about this basically as a sports and action kind of focused camera. They've talked a lot about the focusing and the burst modes and the frame rates that you can get out of this. And you can get something like 60 frames per second. Let me take a look at this here. See, shutter and sequential shooting. So here you go. You can get up to 60 frames per second shooting, which is a lot of frames. That's okay. That's a frame per second. That's 60 photos in 1 minute, which is insane. Now that's not with tracking focus. That's an important point. The focus has to be locked. Hey Scott, how are you? But I have to say, like, bottom line, I'm not really all that interested, and I don't really care about the EM1X. It's a $3,000 camera. I'm sure it's a great camera, but I don't really see how much benefit it's giving us after the EM1 Mark II, which already is a very fast, very powerful camera for $1,000 less, right? You want an EM1X style camera, buy an EM1 II and slap a battery grip on it, and boom, there you go. So, like, that's kind of how I feel about it. Which is kind of my attitude towards cameras in general lately, right? I just don't care all that much about cameras as much as I care about, you know, you and I, the people behind the camera, and how we choose to use that camera to make the images that we make. And I understand that the camera as a tool is important. And I've said this many, many times, but I still feel like it's worth saying. I just don't care about the camera all that much, because if you know how to use the camera, then you can make a great photo. It doesn't matter how fast it can take pictures. It doesn't matter if it's got a battery grip or not or whatever. Like you can take a photo with it and you can make it awesome. So that's kind of my feeling on the EM1X. I believe this second one is framed better. I'm certainly not going to be buying it because I don't need it. I don't need any of the capabilities that it offers. That's the same reason I didn't buy the EM1 Mark II. I wanted to buy the EM1 Mark II initially when I had time to play with it, just because it is a really excellent camera. But when I really sat down and thought about it, my EM5 Mark II is fine. And when I say fine, I mean great. Like, it offers me everything that I need. Great image quality, you know, I mean, manual control. I can shoot whatever I want with it. I've shot sports, I've shot, you know, long exposure nighttime stuff, all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm sitting with it right now. I don't care all that much, not because I think it's a bad camera, but just because I think as a camera, you know, I don't think it offers us a lot, honestly. Here we got more haze, and I think this one is the one of these two. So I'm going to pull this one out. I like that we have a bit more haze in there. I do like this one, so I'm going to keep that one. And I definitely like that one. So what I need to do is narrow down just a couple more images. Because I have this one here, and I have this one, I think this one is more powerful. So I am going to go ahead and reject out this one. And the more I look at this one, the more I can't decide about it. So I'm going to wait on this one here. Between these two, they're both very similar. I feel like she's up a little bit more and she's got a little bit more elongation in her neck. So I think I'm going to go with that one. I'll reject out this one. The more I look at this one, the more I'm not actually sure. This one I really, really like. And initially I really liked this. This was an amazing shoot. Thank you, Scott. For a few hundred more, you can get an EM1 Mark II and a battery grip and a Pro 14 to 100 millimeter lens. Yeah, see, that's what I'm thinking, right? Like, you can just, you know, you can get almost all of the same capability for, and more for the same amount of money. Yeah, the more I'm looking at this, the more I agree. I think I'm going to reject this one and keep this one. Oh, whoops. You'll love the one you just rejected. Which one was that, Robox? Was that... Well, it's out and rejected now. So this is the set I'm looking at. Well, one more time. These two... Okay, these two are too similar. So I'm trying to decide which one of these two. I think this second one here. Yeah. So I'm going to reject out this one. This is for another composite or just an edit. This, I think, is going to be more of just a regular edit. I am probably going to... looking at these two, I may add some texture into the background, but with all of this atmosphere, I don't think adding texture is going to add a lot to the photo. So I will probably just do these as a pretty straight edit, which means I may actually get several photos done. Okay, I see you messaged me on the chat. I will definitely get back to you on that. Yeah, the second one. Okay. I feel pretty good about this selection. I'm still considering this one. Not 100% sure about it. But I love this. I'm digging that. Love this. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with this one here. And this one I may add some texture in the background. This is actually already raw edited here. So I'm just going to shoot this over to Affinity. So subvids, tell me what you're thinking as far as a composite with this here, with her looking sideways at the globe. Because I'm open to ideas. The one laying on her stomach is great, but too bad you can't see more leg. I cropped in tight on that one. That's true though. You lose a little bit of the leg into the fog, but I like that there's just enough back here that, you know, you have the shape and the idea of her body out there. So I'll probably end up editing that one, but I'm going to save that. So I'm going to shoot this over to Affinity. Let's get it over there. Open in. And let's get to work on it. Break out the smoke brushes in Affinity and go wild. I might actually do that. Before I even do any of the quote-unquote basic editing stuff, I just want to see what it would look like to add some texture roughly behind this shot. It might turn out to be too distracting. So what we're going to do is go here and go to Raw Exchange, which is where I have all my assets, and log in. And I love Face ID for this. Ooh, look down. I'm looking down. There we go. Something like in a dark forest illuminated by the orb and then improvising. Interesting idea. Let's see what we got here. Whoops, I want downloads. Now I know I have some ice stuff here, so let's find that. Freelens, ice textures. Here we go. So let's see what we got here. It's a lot of close up. Ooh, I kind of like that. Just for grins, let's give this a shot, just to see what it looks like. This is a shot for the pure creativity of it, is really what it was. So it wasn't like a job or anything like that. Noelle and Angela and I wanted to collaborate together on this idea. So that was really the whole idea. Whoops. I wanted the vertical one, not the horizontal one. So no, whoops, no other reason for it than that. Okay, so where are they? Albums, here we go. Here we go. I just need to delete the wrong ones that I grabbed here just so I can grab easily what I'm looking for. Okay, let's save this. And make sure I can still see your comments. Thank you, subvids. And let's get back to it. All right, so just to see what it looks like, let's go place from photos and grab this here. So now I've got to drag it in, so I'm going to drag it in like so, way bigger than it needs to be. I might even like leave a little bit of that darkness up there. And obviously I have to mask the crap out of this, but need to get to like screen. That could work. Ooh, I kind of like the color dodge. I like the way that throws that texture in there. Ooh, I do like overlay as well. Hello, Dwayne. How's it going? Let's go with overlay for right now, just to leave it as something. And I think I'm going to bring this texture down a little bit. That looks fine. Now, obviously, there's texture everywhere, and we don't want it everywhere. So let's just throw a mask on here. Whoops, I didn't want to group it. I always hit the wrong button there. And very roughly, I'm just going to very roughly brush it off of Angela and the smoke and stuff so we can get a feel for it. Again, this is super rough, just to kind of clean it off and kind of let it fade into the smoke in the background, kind of like that. And I don't know if I'm feeling this or not. I think part of the problem is that the detail in the ice is really big and proportionate to her. Robox, this is Affinity Photo on iPad. So it's this app right here that I'm kind of moving around, and it's called Affinity Photo for iPad, and it is a Photoshop style program, or app rather, for editing on the iPad. You can get it in the App Store. It's 20 bucks, one time only, not a subscription. And I really love working on it. I think it's a wonderful app. It's how I've been editing my photos for the last 6 months or so now. I think what would have to happen is I'd have to blend a number of these in a much smaller proportion into the background. So like that, delete the mask for now, to make that texture look and feel more realistic than it is when I make it huge like that. Because when it's huge like that, that just doesn't look right. So for that, I would want to go back and probably download a number of these. That's kind of interesting. So let's download that one and kind of piece them together. Battery pack died, but now back on power. Okay. All of them. I'm not sure what you mean by all of them, Robox. Do you mean all of the ice photos or all of something else? There we've got a nice crack. Be worth grabbing that one, I think. Save that. And just go through and grab us a variety of these textures that we can work with here. Here we go. Ooh, I like that one. Oh, I got a new mixer. Oh, I didn't finish telling you guys the story. We're supposed to go to Las Vegas this weekend. The reason... Did I save that one already? No, I did not. The reason is for Van Morrison. Yes, I edit all of my photographs on this app. I've been editing all of my photos in this app for the last 6 months. It is... I'll say this right off the bat. It does not have feature parity with Photoshop. In other words, not every single feature that you can find in Photoshop can be found in Affinity Photo. However, it has everything you need to edit as if you were editing in Photoshop. I do still use Lightroom, Rob. In fact, I've got the app right here. I use Lightroom for my raw edits and for organizing my photos and synchronizing them to my computers and all that kind of garbage. But for Photoshop editing, I use this Affinity Photo. And I do most of my editing on the iPad. And when I say most, what I mean is that occasionally I might be at the computer and I might... I forgot what I was saying. I might sit down at the computer and do a little bit of Lightroom editing or do some culling before I sit down on the iPad to like work on them. So I am still using Lightroom. I still have a subscription to the photography plan from Adobe. So I do still have, I'm losing track of where I am and what I'm doing. I do still have Photoshop available to me. I just have not been using it. This started out as an experiment, prompted by Andrew, who's here in the chat, who, after I had done some videos on Lightroom Mobile, you know, when it first was launched, this whole Lightroom CC thing, I was like, this is not really ready. You know, it's good. I see where they're going, but it's not ready yet. And then 6 or 7 months ago, Andrew said to me, hey, you should check out Lightroom Mobile again. Like, I'm using it all of the time. I got this iPad Pro, and I'm editing on there, and it's really good. So he actually, we are local to each other, and he let me borrow his iPad for about a week so that I could play with it. And I was like, oh, this is definitely happening. And then I bought myself an iPad Pro and started using that as my only editing tool, and I love it. It is a great option, Rob. It's a wonderful option, both in its affordability for many people, because a lot of people do not like paying the $10 a month for Photoshop and Lightroom. And while I am still paying that and using Lightroom, there are other alternatives for managing your RAW files that aren't subscription-based, some of which you can use on the iPad. And Affinity actually can edit RAW photos as well, although I choose not to use their RAW processing tools. So it can be a very affordable option, and it can be a really great setup because of the interface and because of the cost. So I think there's a huge advantage to it. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I honestly think that this is the future of editing. A tablet-style interface like this could be a Microsoft Surface, could be, you know, an iPad, could be something else that we don't know yet, that doesn't exist yet. But I believe that this is going to be the future in some way, shape, or form. Let's change this blending mode. Also overlay. Gosh, I wonder what that one would look like. No, it definitely needs to be. I'm thinking about just duplicating this one a couple of times and like changing. All right, before I get too crazy with that, let me bring in a couple of other pieces and see what they look like. 100% agree with everything I'm saying. Also want to add that the Apple Pencil just feels better to edit with. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, if you guys, like, if anybody's looking for an iPad, I got one for sale because I upgraded to the 2018 iPad. So my 2017 or 2017 second generation iPad Pro, I'm selling right now. If anybody's interested, shoot me a message and I'll be happy to chat about possibly selling it. Because I could certainly use it for some different things if I can't sell it. But I would prefer to sell it just because, you know, there's money invested in that and I don't want to lose that, so to speak. So last week you said you believe in keeping old cameras, but is there a time you should get rid of them if not being used, even if you're only getting pennies on the dollar for a low shutter count? Yeah, I would agree with that. Here's my philosophy on things in general. This is like borderline minimalist, but not, obviously you guys have seen my studio and stuff. Not in the sense of like I live in an empty room in an empty apartment with, you know, and I count my possessions and I make sure I only have, you know, 7 pairs of underwear and 2 t-shirts and 3 socks and whatever. But I do believe in this idea of only keeping stuff. And by the way, I was using this philosophy and living by this philosophy long before Marie Kondo and Netflix did their thing. So I'm going to sound like Marie Kondo for a minute. I think that's her name. But I was in this game before Netflix made her a thing. I don't know how long she's been preaching these ideas. I agree with her ideas, but I don't know anything about her show. All of that is to say that I believe in keeping things that you find useful or get joy from, and getting rid of stuff that is a dead weight in your life. So if you have that old camera and you're not using that old camera, and you're holding on to it because you feel like it has value, but you won't get that value out of it, this has become a weight in your life. And it may not be a weight that feels like a heavyweight or a big deal, right? Because maybe it's just sitting on a shelf or whatever. But it's still something that every time you see, you think about, and you think, oh, should I keep it? Oh, should I get rid of it? And it'll trigger this cycle of thoughts that goes on in your head, whatever it might be. And if you're having questions about a thing like that, then my theory is that you should get rid of it. Because if you're not already using it, then you know that it's not productively a part of your life, in the sense that you're using the tool and you're getting something out of that use. Now, having a thing and just having it on a shelf can also bring a person joy, right? Like, I'm not saying don't have art, don't have things like that. But if you're seeing it on your shelf and every time you see it, it doesn't bring you joy, it instead brings you a little bit of anxiety, or triggers this thought process of that I just described earlier, then even if you're only going to get pennies on the dollar, it's still worth getting rid of it. And maybe you don't sell it. Maybe you give it to somebody else who is interested in photography and can't afford a camera. Somebody in your family, or somebody's kid that you know, or somebody that you know, whatever the case may be. Or maybe you just donate it to your local high school, or to give it to a Goodwill, or whatever. As much as we want to get money out of the things that we know have a certain amount of value, the real value in a thing is what a person is willing to pay for it, and monetarily speaking. And if monetarily speaking, a person's only willing to pay you pennies on the dollar, then that's what the thing is worth monetarily. And if you are only holding on to it because you believe it has more monetary value than you can sell it for, then you're basically holding your breath and wasting your time and your own energy into it. So if that's how you feel, then get rid of the camera. However you decide to get rid of it, get rid of it. And when you do get rid of it, make it the easiest way possible. Don't put a lot of friction in it, because the more friction you put in the process of getting rid of the thing, the harder it's going to be for you to get rid of it, and the more stress it's going to generate. This is why for many things, I will give them away or donate them. Catch you later, Shane. Thanks for hanging out. Even though they have some value worth selling. That iPad that I was just talking about, I am not selling it on eBay. Now, the reason I'm not selling it on eBay is because eBay adds friction to the process. I've had bad experiences trying to sell things on eBay, and it has made it so that I don't want and don't like to try to sell things there. So I just don't. Even though I've been sitting on this iPad that I'm trying to sell for a couple of weeks now, and I haven't been getting any responses based on the places that I put it to try to sell. And it's entirely possible, in fact I just lowered the price on it, that part of the reason I wasn't getting any kind of a response is that I was asking too much for it. Which, I totally get, which is also why I lowered the price. I'm not feeling this kind of piecing this together thing. I don't know if I dig this. I'm going to turn this off. So I know I'm rambling on a little bit on this, but bottom line is get rid of it, and get rid of it as quickly and as easily as possible. Even though you might be taking a financial loss on it, holding out for what it's worth financially is often not worth it, because people often just aren't going to pay you what you think it's worth. And when it boils down to it, it is better to get rid of it and remove it from your life so that it's not taking up brain space and physical space than it is to keep it for its perceived value. I'm going to have to look into this philosophy. Lately I'm feeling tied to too many things in my life. Been thinking the last 6 months about how to get away from that. It's hard. Kim and I started thinking and acting on some of these ideas. Well, geez, it'd be over. How long have we lived here? It's 2018. We've lived here for 14 years. So I would say between 15 and 17 years ago or so, my wife started incorporating these ideas and philosophies and thinking about them. And in more earnest, probably 8 to 10 years ago. And to this day, periodically we do what we call a purge, which is, you know, go through our stuff. And I'm just going to try to make this like big again and just mess around with a couple of these. Throw a mask on there. We periodically do a purge where we go through our stuff and get rid of stuff. So I go through and I look at my equipment, I look at my clothes, I look at, you know, the stuff that I have in my studio and whatever else, and I get rid of the things that either I'm not using or that you know, don't add to my life. And Kim does the same thing. So, you know, to that end, and again, I'm not preaching that everybody do exactly this thing, but as an example, Kim and I don't own many books. We own a few, but not very many. And we don't own but more than 1 or 2 DVDs, ones that are kind of special to us for whatever reasons they are. And, you know, not much in the way of like physical media. And it's not that we don't enjoy that kind of stuff. We watch movies all the time. We read books all the time, but we get those books from the library or from Amazon for Kindle and things like that. Yeah, I'm not feeling this ice background. I'm going to try something else here. So I'm just going to say, actually, before I do that, I need to delete this mask again. I'm going to size this again, something like this. Now let's add a mask to it and brush out, whoops, what we need to brush out. So again, these are rough brushes, but just to propose this idea and see if it's something we can roll with. And then I'm going to go along these edges here just to kind of allow these to blend a little bit easier. So now let's turn another one of these on, which I've got down here. And let's just kind of layer it up like that. Change the color. Change the color of what, Rob? I don't know that. I don't know that clouds, like actual clouds. I mean, I could add. Let's see what happens if I just add some smoke to that background. I'm going to add a pixel layer. Let's go to the brushes. I don't have any smoke brushes in here. Sprays. I would need to get some smoke brushes. Painting, that's all different. Paint, drawing, spray paints, texture. I wonder if there's something here in the texture. Gosh, I wonder if I just painted in some texture. What would that look like? Let's try that. Let's. Oh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, this has some potential. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to undo those brush strokes. Actually, we'll just make it easy. I'm just going to delete that layer, add a new pixel layer. We've got the brush. We're going to go into the brush dynamics. We want some variance in the size based on, let's do random. Accumulation. Not hue, not hardness. Scatter, we definitely want to scatter. X and scatter Y. And we'll leave those at random. Okay, now let's do a little bit of drawing here. Let's make this bigger. I'm digging this. Now, again, I've obviously got to mask a lot of this out, but I am definitely going to be doing some color grading on this, Dean. That's a really good question. Change the color of the background. I don't want to go too far on the background chain color. I like that it's darker. I don't want it to have a ton of presence. So what I'm basically looking for is just some texture, right? So I'm even thinking like I would take this and I would kind of, because that dark, that heavy is, it betrays the atmosphere. So if I have it something like this, then it's got a texture that I think has a little bit more believability to it. I just threw a mask layer on it, so let's just brush again roughly over Angela and the other areas. Whoops, I gotta change the brush back to recent round brush. Okay. Yeah, Andrew, what I would suggest doing if you want to kind of start, you know, playing with some of these ideas and try to manage your relationship with the things in your life is, you know, start small. Start with something really small that is manageable and pretty easy. And really the idea is really simple. You look at a thing and you just ask yourself a couple of questions. You know, questions like, you know, A, am I using this on a regular basis? And if the answer to that is yes, then it's probably something that's already worth keeping. Because if you use it on a regular basis and it's something that adds value to your life, then boom, right? Like that's already answered. And then B, you know, if you don't use it, when's the last time you used it? Is this a thing that is a low frequency use but high importance? In other words, hey, Mr. Cochise, how's it going? In other words, you know, is this the thing that you need to have around because once a year you do a thing, whatever that thing is, and when you do that thing, you need this thing that you have, you know, whatever it is. You know, there are however many different examples. Hey, Mr. Noodle, how are you? And if that's the case, right, like if this is a thing that you need because it is used, albeit infrequently, then it's still worth keeping, right? And then you ask yourself, if I don't need it and I don't use it, then why do I have it, right? And maybe you did once use it, maybe you have it because it's nostalgic to you, maybe it brings joy to your life in a different way. And if that's the case, then it's worth considering keeping it. But if it doesn't meet any of those three criteria, you don't use it, whether it's frequently or infrequently, and you don't get joy from it for some other reason, be it nostalgia or aesthetic pleasure or something else, then get rid of it. And one of the things that a lot of people struggle with on that is sentimental items, which I totally understand. And I'm not even saying that you shouldn't have sentimental items if they're important to you. I'm going to leave that background there for a while I do just the basic editing. Whoops, I deleted the mask. So that all right, I want this one, this one, this one, and this one. Delete all of them. Whoops, not the background though. Jeepers creepers. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to leave that background as it is for now and sit on it while I do the other edits. So anyway, as far as, although I am going to do that in between, and I am going to layer the, rename this BG texture. I kind of like how that looks. But I'm going to probably shoot it over to Angela and Noelle and see what they think as well. All right, so let's do cleanup. So this one won't have a ton of cleanup, but I see some spots that I want to get. If it doesn't answer those questions, what I was saying is that some people struggle with sentimental things, and sentimentality is sometimes a difficult thing to deal with. Like, for instance, we tend to feel responsibility to keep a gift that's been given to us, even though the gift isn't a thing that we use or a thing that brings us joy anymore for whatever reason. And despite the fact that it was a gift, right, you really have no obligation to keep things like that. You feel like you do because it was a gift, but the reality of it is you don't. It's just a societal idea and obligation that people have based on this idea of, you know, polite society. I need to current and below layer. There we go. So if it's a situation like that, then it's just worth getting rid of the thing, because if it's causing you stress or it's not bringing you joy, then it's not adding to your life in a meaningful way. And that's how I try to treat the things in my life. Not out of disrespect to anybody, but out of respect to myself. One of my biggest frustrations with Affinity on the iPad is that you can disable touches on certain tools, but not on the in-painting brush tool. So there we just got rid of the edges of the pasty. I'm not sure what this is here, but I want to hit that spot right there. Like so, and we'll get that. 10-minute rule, leave the image and come back to it. That's good advice. It is good advice, which is why I'm just going to let that background sit while we do these edits. What time is it anyway? Gosh, it's almost 1 o'clock already. I'll probably edit till maybe around 2 then, since I haven't even gotten one image barely started. Because I've been talking too much and not editing enough. Listen to me sing this terrible song. All right here. I think because of the jewels there, I'm actually going to leave that. I'm going to get rid of that texture on the pasty though. And I'm going to switch to the clone brush tool. If your mother-in-law gave it to you to keep no matter what, I mean, that's a situation where, yes, you know, like as an example, if it's a family heirloom, then yeah, and you're expected to keep it, that's a slightly different situation. But in a situation like that, you can probably find another family member to take and hold that heirloom and bear that responsibility. Somebody who would want to and be willing to do so. So it's not, you know, there are answers to these kinds of situations for a person who's trying to manage the things in their life. And one of the hardest parts is just getting started with doing these kinds of things. But once you establish the habits and internalize the ideas, not only does it help you live your life in a less burdensome way because you are dealing with less stuff, but it also helps you keep things out of your life that you might otherwise let into it, be it you know, things that you might otherwise buy, or things that you realize, you know, sometimes people, sometimes relationships, whatever, that aren't adding meaningfully to your life. And it sounds harsh to say that, but sometimes, you know, considering the relationships in your life is just as important as considering the physical things in your life. There they go again. Okay. So I think that's a... See, that's super frustrating. I think that's about all the cleanup I need to worry about. Let me take a look at her face real quick. There's nothing there I need to worry about. I am gonna hit this little spot on her eyebrow, just because it stands out to me. Ooh, yep, and I am going to get this hair that's running right here through all of this. That's good. I crimped her hair for this photo shoot, which was actually pretty fun. Thanks for joining, Dean. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Is this about camera gifts? No, it's not about camera gifts. Just about like managing things in your life in general. There was a question earlier, I think. What I took from the shoot was how to remain calm and work through the issues to get the job done. Yeah, that is an important thing to take away and to deal with in photo shoots is the problems that come up, because they inevitably do. All right. So I also think I'm going to take a quick look here and possibly just remove some of these lines right here. And this one. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. And then just a couple of piercing holes right here. Oh, and we might as well get this little stray nose hair right there. And I think this hair right here that's coming down through the eyebrow. So back to the story I was talking about earlier, finally, that I started with ages ago, which is that we were supposed to go to Las Vegas. Oh, right here. I'm going to catch this spot right here for color. So, in-painting brush. Let's see if the in-painting brush will take care of it for me. Just want to... Yeah, that's good. Supposed to go to Las Vegas to see Van Morrison in concert, a show that my wife has wanted to see for quite a long time. She's been a fan of Van Morrison since she was in high school. And we bought these tickets to the concert in Las Vegas, booked our Airbnb, booked our hotel, all of our travel plans are set. And then our stupid government has to turn into a bunch of stupid children who act like morons and shut the whole freaking thing down. And my wife and I, last night, decided that it wasn't worth the possible risk of the giant headaches, the maybe an outlier chance of an actual, plane disaster where we would take harm or death to go see this concert. So we're not going to Las Vegas next week because of the stupid government shutdown and the stress it's putting on the air travel industry and everything else around that, which is super frustrating because we were both really looking forward to this trip and to this concert. Okay, I think that's all of the cleanup I need to do here. So I fully and wholly blame that on our wonderful, wonderful government. I appreciate how you always let us see what the whole process of your shoot. Thank you. I'm glad that that's something that people find valuable. I really enjoy showing that, warts and all, because there are warts to the shoot process, as you guys have seen, from the streaming issues to the I have some gook on my screen that I need to remove here. From the streaming issues to the literal photo shoot issues, working out things like the dry ice or the lighting or a pose and all those kinds of things. It's a process, and it's a fun process, but it is also sometimes a difficult process. Yeah, it might be slow internet on your end, subvids. My stream status is good as far as the feed that I'm putting out. Okay, that's in. We'll turn that background back on. We got our flow. And I'm not going to soften all of her skin because a lot of it's painted. And softening areas that have been painted can actually diminish the paint that Noelle did. So I'm just going to hit some of these bare areas of skin just to do a little bit of softening as far as the colors and texture goes. I might, like right here, just in kind of this central area here. And then there's a little bit of area on her face that I can hit too. Yeah, the process is so much fun. I really enjoy the photo shoots that we do live, both in just the act of creating and being able to show the process as it happens, but also the interaction that you guys add and the suggestions and the ideas that you guys add as part of the photo shoot. I love it, and you guys often come up with ideas that we wouldn't have thought of that genuinely improve the photo shoot. Disadvantages to working with Photoshop on the iPad. I haven't found really any yet. It is different, and so there is a bit of an adjustment to doing iPad editing versus doing it on the PC. But I haven't found any. In fact, the reason I'm doing it is because I find that there are numerous advantages to it, which is why, despite the fact that in some cases it is technically easier or faster or more efficient to do a thing on Photoshop on the desktop than it is to do it in Affinity Photo on the iPad. I still prefer to do it here because the overall process and experience offers me a number of advantages that I really enjoy. So that's kind of you know, the most specific disadvantage would be just that Affinity Photo doesn't play well with Lightroom as far as file formats goes, because Affinity is one company and Adobe is another. Now, Adobe is releasing an actual version of Photoshop for the iPad in 2 months. However, that version of Photoshop, they have already told us, will not be feature complete. So I don't know how capable it's going to be when it lands. I'm certainly going to be checking it out. And if it is excellent, I'll consider switching back to using Photoshop, but using it on the iPad instead of using it on using Affinity. I've grown to really like Affinity, and you know, I have no loyalty to a company that has no loyalty to me, which is to say that Affinity doesn't care about me. They're just a company. They care about me in the general idea that I am a user of their product, but they don't specifically give a shit about me. So, you know, one might think that I'd stick with Affinity because you know, they were first and whatever, but you know, like, I don't give a hoot. I'm going to work with whatever presents me the best tool to do the work that I want to do. So I will evaluate Photoshop with that in mind when it lands on the iPad. But I suspect because, hey Dave, how are you, bud? I suspect that because Affinity has already been developed for a couple of years ahead of Photoshop on the iPad, that Affinity will, at least in the beginning, be better than Photoshop on the iPad. And what I'm very curious to see is what the update schedules will look like for both of these apps. Affinity has a lead and it has a footprint already here. One that Adobe has been genuinely bad at acting on. Adobe has their weirdo mix of, you know, Photoshop Fix and Photoshop this and Photoshop that, which are all like basically small bits of Photoshop capability that they've added to the iPad, while never delivering Photoshop for the iPad. Right? So now they're finally delivering Photoshop for the iPad. How aggressively they develop it is going to be very, very interesting to me. And how Affinity responds to that will be just as interesting to me, because that competition means we'll have better tools to choose from. And that's what I'm most excited about. I would like this to play better with Lightroom, and that's an advantage that Photoshop, I think, will have, because it will play nice with Lightroom as far as sending photos over to Photoshop on iPad and then sucking them right back into Lightroom on the iPad without you having to do much extra work. And Photoshop, being Photoshop, will have an entrenched user base that is literally waiting for them rather than learn a new tool. It's an interesting time in the landscape, and I'm very curious to see. Dave, since you're here, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, are you doing any mobile editing? I'm super curious to see what your thoughts are, because you are Dave here. If you guys aren't aware, you should check out Dave's channel. He is a Lightroom and Photoshop certified expert. Oh wow, I just updated Firefox, no buffering at all. Woohoo! That's awesome. All right, so I'm going to do some dodging and burning on the paint. I don't want to get lost in the woods here though, so I'm going to try not to like get too sucked into the details of this. but I love dodging and burning details like this out so that you can see them even better. Yeah, like I said earlier, regardless of the platform, be it, you know, Windows on a Surface, or be it an iOS on an iPad, or a platform that currently doesn't exist that comes, you know, to be sometime in the next whatever. I know Android sort of tries, you know, is trying with, or rather Google is trying with Chrome OS. Samsung is still producing their Android tablets. I feel like, honestly, though, in the tablet space, I don't think Android has a chance. Would look good to make her lips all blue and drop the pink. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good idea. I'll have to do that with her lips. Yeah, I agree with you, Dave, on that. The current crop of Photoshop apps is just stupid. Do you use, Dave, have you used Affinity Photo at all, or are you just, you know, sticking with desktop and using Lightroom, Photoshop there and whatnot? So this is what I was talking about, where I don't want to get too lost in the woods, but dodging and burning this stuff is in the end really worth it. I need to take a drink. I don't have an iPad Pro, but not a fan of mobile editing. Only desktop for me for editing. Interesting. Why not a fan of mobile? Is it just because the current state of Photoshop apps is a travesty, or is it the form factor? Very curious to know. And the rest of you too. I keep asking this, but I am going to keep asking this because I think it's interesting to see how people's minds and thoughts shift over this. Like, what do you guys think of editing in this form factor? Like, Rob, you were saying that this looks like a good form factor. Hey, Christian, how you doing, man? It's been a while. What's going on? I'm finally actually back to regular live edits, and glad to be here doing these again. I'm thinking about, in fact, the video that I was working on for next week is a overview of my editing workflow using the iPad. So like here, this video, you know, you guys hanging out with me on the stream, you get to see literally the, you know, the editing process, like me dodging and burning, you know, all of the tedious, time-consuming stuff. Whereas in that video, I start with the import, and then I go step by step through like all of the different steps that I take as part of my editing and photo management process on the iPad, which mirrors what I was doing on the desktop, but of course is different because it is an iPad, and because of that you have to make certain concessions and adjustments to your file management process and stuff like that. So I've got a video coming out this Tuesday that details that entire process. And in that vein too, those of you who have iPhones or iPads, are any of you using Siri shortcuts to automate any of the tasks and things that you do on your devices? That's something that I use heavily as part of my workflow on the iPad, and I find it adds a lot of value to what I'm doing in terms of managing and simplifying things. Love Siri shortcuts. I need a new computer for editing. I'm rethinking now. Instead, maybe I'll get an iPad. I've just been using a mouse for so long, it would feel weird using a pen and or a pad. I'll tell you what, Nick, I understand what you're saying, because I was using a mouse for a long time, and then I did switch to a Wacom tablet and pen while I was still using Photoshop a couple years or so ago, and that was a revelation. And then going from that to working on the iPad with the Apple Pencil was another revelation. It's an evolution, a step in the interface. Dave, what are some of your favorite shortcuts? I've been taking so many photos. I'll post on the Facebook page soon. Awesome. I look forward to seeing those, Christian. I think it's a bit more limiting and restrictive, especially with Adobe requiring creative cloud storage for Lightroom Mobile. Yeah, I get what you're saying with that. And I'm living with that right now because that's kind of the best option for managing the photos and having them synchronized back to my computer and stuff like that. But every time I work through this process, I'm thinking about it and genuinely wondering if there are better solutions and trying to come up with better solutions than using Lightroom's cloud. Because I'll say this, okay, Adobe, in terms of reliability, Adobe's cloud service and cloud syncing has been fantastic. Like literally, I've had 0 hiccups as far as any synchronization problems with my Adobe, with my photos going into Lightroom and into Adobe's cloud and showing up near immediately on all of the other devices that I have Lightroom CC on. That part is great. The part that is, pardon my language, a shit show is how Adobe bifurcated Lightroom CC and Lightroom CC Classic and created this dichotomy that is just frustrating because they have made it such that you basically can't use them together. Like you can, but it is an exercise in sheer frustration. There are tools that exist in Lightroom CC Classic that are very useful tools. Of particular note is the export tool and the flexibility you have to create export presets and add plugins that can do things like add a canvas to your export and all these kinds of different things. And I relied heavily on those tools when I use Lightroom CC Classic. But let me tell you this, I haven't opened up Lightroom CC Classic in probably 2 months. I've been doing everything in Lightroom CC, and the things that I have been missing from Lightroom CC Classic, I am replacing with automations that I create using series shortcuts. And so I've already been taking steps because Adobe didn't give me the tools where I need those tools to be. I've already been taking steps that essentially eliminates and reduces my dependence upon Adobe. My main dependence is the ability to synchronize. And yes, Andrew, that's another very good point. Batch editing is still way better in Lightroom Classic, and that's a huge fail on Adobe's part right now. A huge fail. I have zero understanding as to why they are taking so long to add some of these options back into Lightroom CC that they stripped out in creating it and bifurcating it from Classic. You know, I'm sure they have whatever reasons they have, be they technical development issues or, you know, some sort of product roadmap ideas that they have. But whatever the case may be, in my opinion, Adobe is and has been dropping the ball on the mobile editing space. And Affinity has picked up some of that. Adobe has reclaimed some of that with Lightroom CC, but it's quite frankly still not very good. Yes, culling and survey mode. My God, I want culling and survey mode. I also want better cell options in Lightroom CC. It quite frankly pisses me off that I can only see one type of data at a time, and I have to cycle through things, right? Like I like being able to see the file name and the flag rating at the same time, but can I do that? No, I can only do flag rating or file type or, you know, photo info or EXIF info one at a time. That's annoying to me. That's very annoying to me. Probably because they're too busy bringing Photoshop to the iPad, so that way we can have an incomplete, 2 incomplete apps instead of 1 complete app. Yeah, no kidding, right? But here's the thing, like, I mean, I know you're making a joke, Andrew, but I have to believe that they have 2 different teams working on these apps. They must have a Photoshop team and a Lightroom team. Okay, so that's good. I'm just hitting the highlights. Now the hair needs some dodging. I have some custom shortcuts that allow me to add new projects into OmniFocus, and also one that launches maps for my drive to work and loads my iTunes playlist. Very nice. I use Things rather than OmniFocus, and I have some Siri shortcuts that do the same thing. Add projects using templates into my Things to-dos. I also have shortcuts that manage my exports of my photos. I have shortcuts that manage data when I'm creating a YouTube video and create template files that I need with that data for posting my video. Those are some of my most used shortcuts, and I really, really like Shortcuts. Shortcuts is a really amazing tool if you have an iOS device and you use a lot of iOS tools, apps, things like that. You should really take a look at Siri Shortcuts and what it could do to automate and potentially simplify many things that you do on a regular basis. So this horn, dodging and burning this is going to be fun. Shortcuts is still kind of young as a system app. It existed before as an app called Workflow, and then Apple purchased that app and now has deeply integrated it into the system, which I think is wonderful, especially with the voice triggers, although I have to be honest, I don't really use them very much. What I do instead is on my phone, in fact you can see it on my iPad too, I have shortcuts here, and I have these, I have these regular shortcuts that I use, like you know, here is listen, and it asks me what I want to listen to, and it'll open one of the 3 apps that I use for listening to stuff. Things like that. It's a really great tool. The issue for me is that until they can get some of the tools into Lightroom Classic built into CC, I'm still stuck using both. Yeah, that's a super frustrating thing, Andrew. I can totally understand your frustration. I'm fortunate in that I've been able to essentially eliminate Lightroom CC from my workflow. And the only reason it's still installed on my computers is twofold. One, I don't have my entire catalog of photos in Lightroom CC. I've been loading all of my new stuff into CC, but I haven't loaded my old stuff into Lightroom CC yet from Lightroom Classic. And I go back and forth as to whether or not I'm going to do that. I think at some point I probably will, but for right now I'm not, just because your cloud space is of course limited and I don't want to eat all of that cloud space up. The other thing that I still use it for is tethering. When I tether for the live photo shoots, I use Lightroom. Catch you later, Nick. And when I go to teach a workshop or something like that, and I need to be able to, you know, take photos and demonstrate what I'm doing, I have to tether there. So I still have it installed on my laptop as well. So that's where Lightroom Classic still plays a role in my life, is basically tethering and holding my old catalog of photos currently. I actually, the other day, I didn't buy it. I'm not going to buy it. I was looking at Capture One because I thought maybe this will give me a better tethering experience anyway. But one of the downsides of owning an Olympus camera is that the only way to tether that camera is by using the Olympus Capture application. There's no direct tethering support for Lightroom or Capture One or any other tethering software that may exist out there. So when I use Lightroom to tether, basically what I'm doing, because the displaying of the image is better than using just the Olympus Capture tethering software, what I'm doing is I have the Olympus Capture software running, and it captures the image and it brings it into the computer via the tether, and then Lightroom is set up to automatically import the photos that land into the tethering folder. So I use Olympus Capture to tether. The photo gets downloaded to the computer. Lightroom sees that photo and says, oh, here's a new photo, we need to import this, and then that import displays on screen for the stream to pick it up and show it on the screen, or if I'm tethering at a workshop, to show up on the projector. With the addition of USB-C to the iPad, I hope, I'm not holding my breath for this, I'm certainly not expecting it, but I am hopeful that at some point I'll be able to directly tether to my iPad. Just plug my camera into the iPad and shoot tethered and have the images show up on the iPad. If that happens, I can then eliminate my laptop entirely and just work from my iPad on the go or otherwise. Oh, you did it? You're buying a 27 iMac, Andrew? Excellent. Still need to get with you to check out the new iPad. Andrew, what are you doing this weekend? All right, Dave, catch you later. Yes, definitely. See you in Vegas. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, yeah, Lightroom CC also lacks plugin report, export options. Yep, syncing, batching. Yep. All of those things are missing, and it's really frustrating. I did see in a forum that you can connect the camera directly to the iPad and import directly, which now defeats the purpose of the SD dongle. Shoot me a message, Andrew. Maybe we can get together this weekend if you'd like, and you can check out the iPad. Yeah, I still have a dongle for importing from my SD just because I prefer that rather than dragging out the USB-C cord, USB cord, plugging it into the camera, getting the adapter so that I can plug it into the iPad, plugging it into the, blah, 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 blah. I have the adapter, I stick the card in it, I stick that into the iPad, and it's done. So that's my preferred way of importing at this point in time. Okay, so that's dodge. Let's go to burn and start darkening some of these darks. So I'm definitely still in the process of adapting my workflow. But the adaption and the adoption of this has gone really well for me, and I'm really, really happy with it. And I see no reason at this point for me to go back to needing to work on the desktop. In fact, there was a moment where I was considering selling my iMac. However, the reason I'm not and have no plans to sell my iMac at this point is that while I can edit videos on the iPad, and I have edited videos on the iPad, and I don't mind doing it, it is still better and more efficient to edit those videos on my computer using Final Cut Pro 10 rather than on the iPad. There are a number of features in the editing software that is available on iPad that are missing that Final Cut Pro has. Things like synchronizing audio automatically rather than having to do it manually. And doing an audio sync manually isn't really the hardest thing if you have a clap, a time mark of some sort, except for the fact that when you record your audio separately from your video, you often get what's called audio drift, which is where the audio file, even though you recorded these at the exact same time, the audio file is actually slightly longer or slightly shorter. We're talking like fractions of a second longer or shorter than the video file, which results in audio drift. And if you synchronize manually, you have to account for that drift and try to fix that drift, which is super annoying. Whereas like in Final Cut Pro 10, I can click an audio file and click a video file and then choose to synchronize them, and boom, Final Cut Pro automatically synchronizes them and fixes the audio drift for me without me having to do anything at all. And it literally happens in a couple of seconds. Whereas creating that synchronization on the iPad takes minutes. And the other problem is on the iPad you can't create what's called a compound clip, which is basically taking two different clips and layering them up in some way and then grouping them together so that you can edit and move them around the timeline together. I should see what my battery's at. 43%. We're doing okay. Hey, Emmanuel, how's it going? For my workflow, or when I'm complete shooting a wedding, I'd love to import the photos onto my phone or iPad Pro immediately so they can upload over the cell network. I tried this before and it was slow, but Adobe really did some changes to the cloud network this past summer, so I want to try again. Interesting. What changes did they make to their cloud network? I didn't hear anything about those changes. But like I said, I've been really happy with Adobe's cloud reliability, which is one of the reasons I'm still happy to pay the price that I'm paying, the $10 a month, for the, actually I'm paying $15 a month for the terabytes worth of storage, for the cloud storage, as well as Photoshop, Lightroom, etc., etc., etc. I could see at some point in the future actually not having Photoshop and not paying that anymore. But for right now, it's still an important part of my workflow, so I'm not getting rid of it. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not looking for a reason to get rid of it, but at the same time, I am looking for ways to replace the frustrating parts of the workflow that Adobe hasn't addressed. Okay, so that's the horn. Now we're going to get into the hair. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to put the music on today. It's 1:30. Let's pop some music up here, now that I'm finally thinking about it. Let's find some music, and let's browse advanced, and let's look for groovy today. I'm in the groovy mood. Alrighty, let's play. We're gonna turn that down because that'll be too loud. Is it playing? It's buffering. Okay, I'll adjust that volume as needed. There we go. The network was slow. Even if I sat on a fiber connection, cloud connection had some bottleneck. It would take forever to upload files. They made a fix this last summer that they didn't advertise. Okay, interesting. And for you, of course, you know, shooting weddings, I mean, on average, Andrew, like how many photos do you shoot for a wedding? Because that's obviously a volume of photos that I don't produce. You know, I produced 71 photos for this photo shoot that I did here. So managing and synchronizing those is relatively easy versus, you know, even if it's 700, right? That's an order of magnitude larger in terms of data and file sizes and all of these other things. So that's certainly an issue that I know Adobe has to be considering in the management of all of this cloud stuff that they're doing and dealing with. Oh, I never posted that I was live. I posted that I was going live, but I meant to post that I was in fact live once we got started here. Oh well. Next time. All right, let's take a look at that. That's good. Add some life to the hair there. We had a staff of 3 photographers shooting my last wedding. I believe it was around 3,600 images total. And there you go right there, right? Like that's a lot of images to manage, to upload, to deal with. So having that tweak that they made speed up that process is tremendous. Okay. So hair horn, now we're going to hit the body paint. And this should hopefully not take too long. Ideally, I'd like to finish at least one image for this edit. Oh, somebody asked earlier if I finished up the last photo from last week. I am sorry, I forgot to answer that. I meant to earlier, and then we got off track. And I was even going to start with that photo. So I didn't end up coming up with... Last week, I was trying to figure out a way to add, it was a Harley Quinn that I was editing, Noelle as Harley Quinn, and I was trying to find a way to add a domino mask. Not because I actually wanted to add one to the photo, but rather because it was a good question and a good exercise. And I did not come up with a good way to do it. I'm still honestly looking to see if I can come up with a better way for it. So if and when I do, I will definitely revisit that. Were you guys able to hear the music okay? I don't want it to get too loud, but I don't want it to be too soft either. What if your camera doesn't have SnapBridge? How would you load your images into the app? The way to do that if you don't have SnapBridge is to use some sort of a dongle. I have the USB-C iPad, so that's why I have a USB-C dongle. But if you didn't have, if you had a regular iPad that has a Lightning port, then you would get the SD card to Lightning adapter, and you could download those to the file, to the photo roll, to the camera roll, and then you could import those into Lightroom, and that would be the raw files, and then you could work with them from there. What's that? What's that, Mike? What do you want me to try? Okay, that was you. Sorry about that. Forgetting to answer the question. I'm pretty sure I can buy some type of adapter to make it Wi-Fi capable. Why are you thinking about the Wi-Fi on the D7000, Rob? Not that I'm saying you shouldn't do it, but I'm just curious as to what functionality you're looking for. Because if you're looking for wireless transfer to the iPad, I would say that you're better off doing some sort of a direct download, whether it's whether it's with a dongle or something like that. Just because a wireless transfer of images isn't, it's fine, but it's going to be slower, and it's going to slow down an already slow process, right? Because if you're Wi-Fi transferring over the iPad, at D7000, you're probably talking like 14 or 15 megabyte files if you're shooting raw. And transferring that over Wi-Fi, let's just say it's, whatever. Let's say it's 50 images. That might take, if you're transferring them all at once, that might take 5 or 10 minutes. If you're transferring as you shoot, which I don't know if that's supported, just using the Wi-Fi dongle, that might be okay. Giving me a minute, making bread for a product shoot, and be right back. Okay, making bread for a product shoot. Yeah, Andrew, do you use SnapBridge? Because I tried SnapBridge when I had the D3400. Excuse me. When I was making some videos about it, and I never got SnapBridge to work. Literally never. It never connected to the camera for me, despite my best efforts. I missed some of the upper part here. Yeah, I didn't have, I had rented the D3400 when I made that series of videos for that camera. I can't remember exactly how long I had it now. It was like a week or 2 weeks or something like that I rented it. And I tried to connect to SnapBridge with that camera. I don't know, must have been 20 or 30 times, and it didn't work once. Never worked once, which was really frustrating. I've heard that they've made improvements to SnapBridge and all that, which is if it works better and more reliably, that's great. But boy, was that frustrating, because I was actually I wanted to make a video about it, but I couldn't because it just flat out didn't work for me. My camera doesn't support SnapBridge. This D750 is still stuck with the older Nikon WMU. The app works. It isn't buggy. It's just very slow to transfer and a bit pointless in its use, right? Tim, you got it working, but it's so slow that it's not worth the effort anyway. Yeah, that figures. Yeah, the wireless technology stuff is exciting, but in my opinion, at this point in time, a wired connection, a hardline connection, whatever it is always better. A dongle, RobOX, a dongle is just an accessory thing that you connect to another thing you're using. So this is a dongle for the iPad because it's the SD to USB-C card reader. You know, the Wi-Fi adapter that you would connect to your D7000, you could call that a Wi-Fi dongle. So a dongle is just an accessory thing that you need to give your device some other sort of functionality that you want on it. And it's also kind of a fun word to say. Dongle, 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 dongle. And the joke about the iPad is, you know, welcome to Dongle Town, because you gotta connect everything to it via some sort of a dongle. Same with the MacBooks that now only have the USB-C ports, and everybody was joking about, you know, how you have to buy all these USB-C. Bless you! All these USB-C dongles in order to connect things that you used to be able to normally just connect to a MacBook, like plugging in your SD card, or having an HDMI port, or just having a USB-A port for like an external hard drive or something like that. Funny name. Yeah, it is kind of a funny name. Although it's funny because before all of this stuff was being called dongle, and dongle was more regularly used, which isn't to say that it's seeing huge regular use. I remember being when I used to work at a Quick Trip convenience store, and my boss at that store was asking me something, and I said, I was looking for my keys, and I said, yeah, it's a set of keys with a dongle on it, with the dongle for the car. And she's like, a dongle? What's a dongle? And I'm like, you know, the dongle for opening and closing the car door. And she's like, that's not a dongle. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's a dongle. So that was an interesting conversation, to say the least. This is the Apple Pencil, Rob, that I'm using with the iPad. And this is the new Apple Pencil with the new iPad. So this one connects magnetically to the side, like so, right there. The unfortunate design of the previous version of the Apple Pencil is that you need to use the lightning plug on the back of it to plug it into the iPad. Or the original, the other Apple Pencil does come with a lightning to lightning female adapter, so that you can just plug it into a lightning cable as well, and charge it that way. So that is not Apple's best design as far as things go. That being said, the Apple Pencil is still a really great tool, whether you're using the new version like the one I have, or the old version that plugs in via lightning. And that pencil is still available because the $300, $329 iPads support that Apple Pencil, the lightning-based Apple Pencil. So, you know, if you didn't want to splash out for an iPad Pro, be it budget or other reasons, you could still get the new iPad Pro I'm talking about. You could still get the $329 iPad that supports Apple Pencil, or you could get a 2017 model iPad Pro, which also took the Apple Pencil via Lightning for charging. Outside of the charging thing, though, they both work fantastically. And I really love the Apple Pencil and working on the iPad with it. What kind of bread you making, Mike? And please do share your idea too when you're ready to. Oh, the other thing I was going to show you guys was my new mixer. So for those of you who were around on Monday for the photo shoot that I did with Angela and Noelle, you may remember that I was having some sound issues with the sound getting all crackly and breaking up. And it turns out that the mixer that I was using to capture the mics and bring the sound into the stream died on me. Just took a crap and died. So I bought a new mixer, which arrived today. And I was a little bit shocked when it arrived because this is the old mixer that I was using, the Yamaha AG06, which I was very happy with and loved it until up the point that it died. And I asked a friend of mine, and he recommended me this Mackie, which is significantly bigger. But I did want 4 XLR ports for my microphones. So, gosh, you know what might actually fit in there? Oh, it's just not wide enough. So I'm looking forward to getting this hooked up. I just got it this morning, which is why I'm not using it today. I'm using my backup mixer. But I'm looking forward to getting this hooked up and running all of my mics through this. So if anybody wants a piece of junk Yamaha AG06 that doesn't work anymore, let me know. Okay, that's pretty good right there. Gotta get up here. What do you guys got planned for the weekend? Since we're not going to Las Vegas, tomorrow we're gonna go visit family, have dinner with Kim's stepdad. Tonight, oh, I'm excited for tonight. Tonight I'm going to a Magic the Gathering draft at... Any of you guys play Magic the Gathering, by the way? I'm going to the draft at our... Well, it is technically my local game shop, but local is deceiving because it's half an hour away, so it's not really local. But I'm going there for the draft tonight with my friends that I play Magic with, which I'm pretty excited about. I suck at drafting, so I fully expect that I'm going to get my butt kicked. But even so, I'll still come away with some cool cards, I'm sure. Everybody gets a certain card just for coming into the draft. And it'll be a fun time to play regardless of whether or not I win or lose, which I fully expect to lose. Love the mixer. I still have some audio gear, but almost all of mine is rack mount. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to get that mixer hooked up and operational. One of the things that I'm not glad that that mixer died, but in a way it's fortunate because I've been wanting to consolidate things. My microphone setup was always a little bit janky as far as my inputs because I didn't have enough XLR ports on the mixer that I was using, so I was actually using 2 separate mixers, and still currently am. This will allow me to combine everything into a single mixer with a single control board and be able to run all of my sound through that one rather than through 2 different ones, which hasn't been a problem other than one of them dying. And then I'll actually have 2 backup mixers. Okay. I gotta get in here yet. And I think I need to go over this with the Dodge brush a little bit more too. Was just watching the Trump speech. He's going to reopen government for 3 weeks, so maybe you can go to Vegas after all. You may be able to go to Vegas. Trump's now he's ending the shutdown. Well, it's a little late, I think, because I already canceled our flight and stuff like that. And we already made the decision to stay home, which is bollocks. That guy's such a... Oh, God. That government is just a fucking joke. The whole thing. Trump, all of them. All of them. I am party agnostic because I think they're all a bunch of jerks who only really have the party's interest in mind in the long run. Plus, I can't imagine him opening it up is just automatically going to make everything better right now. Fucking politicians. And how long is he opening it for? He's going to reopen it for 3 weeks. What a piece of work. I think I got this area here already. Yeah, but I missed this right here. I don't know what you guys think about this whole thing, this whole shutdown, this whole government stuff, but it really chaps my ass. Texture on the mask. Okay, here's what I did to get the texture of the mask. Use Affinity Photo, build in frequency separation filter, and put a child layer on the color layer with black. I did the same thing. So I just learned you can send photos directly to Photoshop without exporting. Okay, catch you later, Andrew. I actually did do that, Mike. In fact, whoops. Let me show you guys what I did. So I'm gonna save this. I think I kept that layer. Did I not? I must have deleted it. All right, so let me just generate that real quick. I'm gonna do a merge visible. Here's what Mike's talking about, if you guys are wondering. So we're talking about trying to add, whoops, I'm in the wrong place, a domino mask to this image. And we'll go with about 8.5 is good. What I just did is I ran the frequency separation, which separates the color from the texture. And yeah, oh yeah, Andrew, or Christian, I'm sorry. Yeah, you can certainly do that. You can open in, and it'll send the photo over to Lightroom or over to Photoshop, then you save it, and when you close it, it's saved back to Lightroom automatically. That's a really nice feature of Lightroom and Photoshop working together. That's one of the things I lose when I use this Affinity Photo. But despite that, it's still worth it for me to use it. So what I've got here is a layer in between the low frequency, which is just the color. Let me shut off all the other layers here for a moment so you guys can see. When I turn off the low frequency, we're left basically with the texture. There is some color there, but it's principally texture. And then when I turn off the high frequency, we have zero texture, we just have our color. So with these two in place, I created a layer in between, and what I'm going to do is paint around the eyes, the idea being that I'm adding this domino mask. And what that does is it adds the color while preserving the texture, which makes it look more like face paint, because when you put face paint, now obviously I'm not doing a very good job here, when you put face paint on a subject, it maintains some texture. So I did that same thing, and it looked okay, but I was not able to get it to look good in a way that made me feel good about it. And this is a very rough, very ugly version of it. What did work is maintaining the texture. What didn't work is me figuring out a way to shape those masks and paint them and just get it to look right. So I'm still going to play with this idea, but it's not something that I've been successful with yet, at least not with that images. Hello, Michael. Howdy. Just found your channel from Sean Bagshaw regarding your video Lightroom CC and Classic together. Oh, awesome. I'm glad you found me, and thank you very much to Sean for that referral. How is it that working for you? Have you changed anything? What are you editing with on your iPad? Thanks. No problem. So it has changed since I talked in that video about Lightroom CC and Lightroom Classic together. At this point, and I was discussing this earlier, so I'm going to cover some ground that I've already covered here, but what I've found is that I'm actually not using Lightroom Classic anymore. I use it very little because I'm doing almost everything on the iPad alone, mostly just using Lightroom CC. So I've made a couple of concessions. As an example, in that video, one of the things that I was talking about is how I prefer to maintain control over the files in the folders, which you can do in Lightroom CC. And for right now, I've given up on that just because I found maintaining it not worth the effort at this time. This is one of the reasons I would consider leaving Lightroom and Photoshop entirely. With Lightroom CC Classic, you do get that file management, but with Lightroom CC, you don't. In Lightroom CC, it just dumps them into the folder by date. So as of right now, I've been importing into Lightroom and Lightroom CC through the iPad, managing those photos in Lightroom CC, culling them, editing them, raw edits, all of that kind of stuff, and then doing my Photoshop editing in this app that I'm using right now, which is Affinity Photo for iPad. You can see the name up at the top of the screen there. And if you're not familiar with Affinity Photo, it is a Photoshop equivalent app for the iPad. So I'm happy here with this dodge and burn. It's pretty subtle, but that's always what I'm looking for in a dodge and burn. I got the skin, I got the hair. I'm still debating that background that I added. One of the problems is it's not a realistic texture. It has the darkness, but it doesn't have the light and shadow that it would need. So I'm gonna turn it off for right now. We're gonna do the eyes because we got to finish that up. So that's probably the biggest thing that's changed, Michael. The fact that I'm really not using Lightroom Classic anymore, that I've given over to Lightroom CC because I really value being able to do everything on the iPad rather than being tied here to my desk in my studio and my computer. I can edit fully and completely sitting on the couch while my wife is watching TV. I can edit a photo before bed, lying in bed. I can edit on an airplane, now that the government apparently is working again. Or, you know, in a hotel room without having to pull out a laptop, have a tablet, a Wacom tablet and a pen in my bag and all of this other stuff. So basically, Michael, I've gone all in on using my iPad as basically my sole editing computer. Using Affinity Photo and Lightroom CC. And if you have any questions about any of that process, feel free to ask because I'm happy to elaborate on any of those steps. Do you ever find that you spend too much time editing images? I find that I'm working at 180 to 250. I'm pretty sure I'm overthinking photos. Sometimes yes. So today is, whoops, I did do it already. Whoops. So I got to delete those. Today is not a good example, only because on a stream, I fully expect that I'm not going to be like efficient editing because I'm talking to you guys, and that's totally fine. I still really and thoroughly enjoy these streams with you guys. So oh, we were gonna color the lips, so I'm totally cool with that. Like that's fine. I used to spend, I think, too much time. Mostly spending too much time on the dodge and burn process. I've gotten a lot better at realizing that you can go too deep on a dodge and burn. And the return on it is sometimes really wonderful, but more often than not, I found that, you know, going too deep on the dodge and burn doesn't really net me anything better than what I would have gotten with a more relaxed, less intense. Catch you later, subvids. Thank you so much for hanging out as usual. Than a more relaxed dodge and burn would be. So I'm going to group these. Just want to look at that eye. That's good. Okay. No problem, Michael. I can edit in a chair. I can edit over there, Spyros. I am right. I completely lost track of what I was saying. Oh, spending too much time. So as an example, though, this image right here, this raven image, this took me 3 maybe even 4 hours of editing to get done. I'm really happy with the results. So a person could say that I spent too much time on it, but I don't feel like I did, because I am so happy with these results, and because that work got me to the point where I was able to achieve this image. You know, this started out as, I'll just take off all of these layers. This is my beginning image of Noelle, and there was a lot to do there. I knew I wanted to add text, like magical runic text, to the book. I knew I wanted to make her skin white. I knew I wanted to add crackling to her skin. I knew I wanted to make her eyes black. I knew I wanted to add that magical kind of ambiance to the background. All these different things. So I just, you know, I did those a little bit at a time. I extended the background because I decided that this would work better as a horizontal. Thank you, Rob. Shot rather than a vertical shot as I originally shot it. I did my basic cleanup, of course, which, you know, right here you can see, you know, like just, you know, small stuff, blemishes, whatever, stuff that we all have on our face. This here is the ruins that I added onto the page. So if I turn this, where did it go? This one right here. If I turn that on, those are the ruins on the page of the book. If I turn it off, there's the blank page. So I hand drew out those ruins, and then I had to bring them in here and get them laid onto the page and make them look good. I added this darkness underneath the eyes. I turned her skin white. I added this cracking underneath the eyes. I added more blackness, or I made the eyes black. And then I added some darkness around that to reflect. See, I made the eyes black here already, right? But black would reflect darkness to a degree out to the stuff surrounding it. So I had to make some of the areas around the eyes blacker, right? And then I added this darkness underneath the eyes to further enhance that sort of very dark under eye look. You know, then threw in the background, right? So like there's a lot of work that went in here. I also added this halo layer around her to add some realistic purplish reflection on her. Added noise finally, and then added a gradient map. So a ton, you know, that was a pretty intense image that I edited there, but I spent a lot of time on it, and it was totally worth it to me. Okay, I am going to do one last thing here. If I remember how to do it, if I don't remember how to do it, I'm going to have to do this in the next video, in the next stream. But I want to make the lips wholly blue. So let's grab that color. And brighten it up a little bit, right about there. And then we're going to brush it onto the lips. Here. And then I believe I just need to change the blending mode. I could probably even do it just using that frequency separation technique. But I think you can also do it with blending mode. I just don't remember which blending mode. Darker actually works okay. Multiply color burn. Color burn works all right. Well, it's a little intense. Screen, color dodge. Overlays, no. Hard light is not bad. Linear light, hard makes difference. Exclusion, subtract hue. Saturation, luminosity, color. There it is, color. That looks quite good, just like that. Although it might be a little bit bright. Yeah, I think that blue, I think I went a little bit bright on that blue. What do you guys think? Yeah, I think it's a little too bright. Dwayne McClune, I know you're quite busy, but would you be willing to view a picture I took? I could email it to you, and you could send me an email at dwaynemcclune@gmail. Yeah, if you want to send me a photo, Dwayne, that's cool. I don't know how long it'll take me to respond, so just be patient with me. I do ask that. But send it to Spyros at self. I'm typing a comment. Selfhelpphotographer.com. There you go. Yeah, I agree. I think the lips are a little bright. So we're going to delete that layer, and then we're going to add a new layer. Whoops, not a mask. And pick a better blue. So let's go here with the eyedropper, and let's do a 5x5 sample, and let's just grab off of which part of the lip here. I think that'll work. So we'll go back to the brush, make this our color here, and let's brush that in for the lips now. Close the color on her, close to the color, I agree. That's the type of background I like to see on this set of photos, but more fairy tale looking, maybe with pinkish purple and white. Let's take a look at maybe adding a little bit of something more to the background. I don't know that that texture I added is what we want, but I do think that the background needs a little bit of something. Okay, so let's, whoops, change the blending mode to color. Yeah, that looks way better. Way, way, way better. Yep, that does it. That makes the lips look way better. No, I didn't, Christian. I'm actually going to make a new studio tour soon. Like within the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping to. I've got a video I'm working on for next week, this coming Tuesday. And I have a video that I want to make for after that, but I may not have all the stuff I need to do it. If I don't, I'll have the studio tour out then. If not, it'll be like a week later after that, something like that. But expect it within like the next 3 to 4 weeks for that. So as far as the background goes, all right, let me save my work here. And then let's go back to Raw Exchange, because I have other stuff here that I can choose from. So ice textures, maybe not. What do we got here? We've got autumn leaves, no birds, no blood, no blood, no bokeh, no neo wings, no butterflies, no city series, no. Clouds of glitter, maybe. Probably not, though. Yeah, I don't think so. Cracks, dust, feathers, fine lines, fine dollars. I do like these fractals. I've used these fractals quite a bit, but I don't think... I don't know, maybe it would be a decent fit. What do you think of something like... What do you guys think of something like this for the background? No, that doesn't work. That does not work. A snowy white birch tree forest background. Lips look perfect. Awesome. Can you show me the before and the after? I had to tuck. Oh yeah, sure. Let me go back. So let's just get zoomed in on those lips again. Here, are you talking about the lips, Ultra MUC? If so, this is the before on the lips, and this is the after. And I just used a blank pixel layer that I literally just took a brush, chose the color, painted it in, and then changed the blending mode to color. And that blends it down, preserving the texture. So that's what I did there. Okay, so I was thinking maybe something under this pixel, but I'm not, I don't think these fractals are going to work here. Hand-painted brown, no. Hand-painted green, no. I don't know, what do these look like? I've never looked at these. No. I mean, I'd change the color anyway if I was using one of those, but none of those. Light beams. Eh. I don't think light beams are going to really add anything here. Liquid ink splashes. I wonder if any of those would look cool. No, probably not. Yes, thank you. No problem. I don't know that I have a snowy white tree. Ooh, here, look, ground fog. This is probably dry ice photographed for stock. Although a couple of these might add some additional... Yeah, that's definitely dry ice. Might be able to add some additional fog to this that I could use. So I'm going to keep these in mind. Oh, there's a lot of these. There's a whole lot of these. Alright, come on. There's a whole lot of these. Holy smokes. Gosh, what does this look like? I wonder if just throwing that behind might add some. It's looking great. Thank you very much. I'm gonna, for grins, we're gonna save image. And let's place from photos. And see what that does for us, if anything at all. Probably not. I'm already thinking not. I am going to mess around with the blending modes here a little bit. Maybe. It's less Ice Queen than Ice Queen, right? But that's okay because it was just like the basis of the idea to begin with. Let's make this black. Let's cover it up and just roughly brush out Angela again. This is not a good job here. I'm not expecting it to be right now. Again, just to kind of sit on this idea and decide if it's worth pursuing. I don't like it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Next time, turn the blending mode on before you paint. For me, it makes it easier to find where I need that color. That's a good idea. I didn't think about that. That's a really good idea, Mike. Thank you. I will do that in the future. I don't know about that. What do you guys think about this? I'm just giving you a moment or two to look at it and type your comments. I would need to add some in front of her too, because that would look more realistic, even more realistic. But as of right now, I don't know. No. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I agree. I don't think I don't dig it either. Okay. Let's see what else we got to choose from here. We're gonna close that. Ooh, I'm down to 20%. Woohoo. Okay. Metal hoses, no. Milk, no. Miniature moon, no. Movie looks, no. Music sheets, nature overlays. That has some potential. No, this is all a bunch of leaves. Leaves, leaves, leaves. Ooh, what's this? I don't know about that. So I'll just kind of sparkles. Which is like whatever. It's a whole mess of that. Now we get to, which, yeah, it wasn't very promising. Ophelia overdose particles. Those particles have for us. And that's just like glitter in a different name. Alright, so we're going to whiz through this. Do you have a lace texture? I don't think I do, Rob. I don't think I do, honestly. Maybe I do. Maybe there's lace under this premium texture thing here. This is all like rocks and crap. No, that's not a texture that I'd want to use. Playful water reflections, realistic lens flares, rust, rusty chain, rusty wall, sand, skeletons, slime, smoke, smoke and steam, snow. Snow. That's just particles. Sparkler, steampunk, the bulb, the dancers, the decay, archive, The Mill, Trees and Bark, tutorial that I bought, Water and Rain, Winterland. Let's see what that looks like. What kind of angle is that to shoot from, for crying out loud? Gosh, I wonder if something like this might work. Okay, we're gonna play with it for grins. Maybe lower opacity. I'm not sure. Yeah, let's see if let's muck about here for a little bit. All right, for right now, I'm actually going to. I'll try this lowered opacity. Let's see what that does. And that helps a little bit, but I'm still not really feeling it. Let's yeah, think about this for a second. I would have to extend the canvas. Okay, this is not going to work with white trees though. Yeah, would like more snowiness to it. It would be like, and this, like I said, this is not great, but this is going to be very ugly. Promise you that. The scaling is all wrong here, obviously. There's a lot of things wrong here. So let's just rough this in to see if it's got any merit whatsoever. Whoops, that's the wrong way. Let's embiggen this. Let's bring back all of that. So that's our smoky texture. That's the upside, is that smokiness would certainly make it easier to blend this in. So this is bad ugly. Again, bad ugly. I think let's bring her shoulder back in here. Okay. This I think would need to be larger to make the scale feel more realistic. Of course, that just mucks up the mask. So let's undo that. Let's take this mask and just dump it back down here for a minute so we can scale this more. Something like this maybe, just to see. I would need to do color matching, obviously, like some serious color matching work. Let's bring her leg back in here too. Like, I don't know, this is obviously very rough, very ugly, but what do you guys think? That mucks up the mask again. Take out the evergreens. Let's see what else they got to choose from. Nope. Nope. Maybe? That's a maybe. What do you guys think? I think that's a maybe. That's just a slight variation. Oops. I would actually want the full resolution version of that. It's a maybe. It's just more of the same. I don't like that one. Is that all of them? That can't be all of them. These are no, I need more, better foreground. You like it? Okay. If this was all trees in the background, maybe, but I don't like those buildings and stuff. Nope, 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 nope. No, 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 no. That's where we were. Let's get through these. And then we were looking at these as well. And then we're back to those. Okay, so let's try one of those. So we'll get rid of that. We will place a new image. Place from photos. And we'll do this one. Something like that. And then we'll take that mask away and drop it over there. I don't think the scale of the trees is quite right. So let's get that mask out of there again. And embiggen them even more. Something like that. I don't know. I would need to add a bunch of smoke to it. Definitely like the sunburst coming through the trees. Something like an ice cave would be cool. Yeah, it really would. Trees. I think you have something going here. Turn down the color and the exposure on the background. One of the things I definitely want to do here, so let me go back to, what time is it? It's 2:18. Okay, I'm still okay. Oh, God. I got 15% on the iPad. So I think I mentioned this, but I'm waiting for an adapter, a dongle that comes that will allow me to plug power into the iPad at the same time as the HDMI cable for the output, so that I won't have to worry about battery. But until I get that, we are beholden to my battery life. So I need like a bunch of like fog, atmosphere, smoke. Smoke and steam. I don't know if that's going to work. I might go back to that one. No, that's not going to work. Let me go back to that one fog one. Low-lying fog or whatever it was. Fog, fog, fog. Where is that? Bokeh, brown. City, cloud. Cracks. Dust flying, fractals, free lens, blah, blah, blah. Heavy industrial smoke. Maybe that'll work. No, it won't. This is too much. I'm looking more for atmosphere than I am like smoke tendrils and stuff. And here we go with hundreds of options again. How about a white horse in an ancient forest? How you going, Bela JB dongle? Yep, I love that. I love that word. Ice, Inferno, Ireland, Ivy, Jamori Light, Liquid, Magic Dust, Magical Ground Fog. There, that's what I was looking for. Magical Ground Fog. Come on. All right, I just want to get something to throw in to add. So I'm just going to go for smoke. Here we go. Here. Come on. Okay, this is not a great option. What about the full moon idea? You can add color to the moon. Maybe. Let's see. Save image. Back to Affinity. Place from photos. And recently added. Boom. Dragging a bunch of smoke in the background. That was weird. I feel like the smoke would like actually be smaller because it would be part of the background. I would need to add multiple sort of layers of it. So that, and then I think lighten's okay for now. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do just to simplify my messing around here. Group these two together. And then apply that. Where did my layer mask go? What did I group together? Oh, I grouped together something I didn't want. Okay, sorry guys. I'm trying to keep track of what I'm doing here. I want to group these two together. Then I want to take that layer mask and throw it on the group. Whoops, I missed. There. Okay, so that's somewhere. Full moon with the smoke. But I am going to wrap this because I'm about to lose battery. So this is clearly nowhere near done. Color matching, color grading, better atmosphere in the background, better blending of the foreground and background, better mask on Angela, blah, 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 blah. Yep, I'm definitely going to have to add more smoke to the background, like lots of different things that have to be done here. All of that being said, we're somewhere. We're somewhere here. And I'm going to play with this, and either if I don't finish it before next week, I'll break down the layers of what I did. Otherwise, I might just save this until next week, and we can pick up where we left off here to finish this. So stay tuned for that one way or the other. I'll be back next week for the live edit, and Monday Mark and I will be up for Photo Blab, where we can answer all your photography questions about whatever you want. But otherwise, thank you guys, everybody, so much for joining. I really appreciate you hanging out with me and keeping me company while I edit very, very slowly, but that's okay because you guys are super cool and I love it. So have a great weekend and be safe with whatever you're doing. If you're in the Arctic, like I am, stay warm. But whatever you do, get out there and take some damn photos, guys. Catch ya on the flip. Bye! All right, where's my stop button? Aha, found it. Okay, bye.